Hey everybody, this is the Blue Chip Breakdown, and we're your hosts, Bull and Timmy G, and this is the midweek chat. We're going to be talking Tennessee versus Mississippi State. All fan bases are welcome. We're also going to be talking about the college football playoff rankings and what y'all think about it, because I gave y'all my thoughts, but I need to know everyone else's. How do y'all feel Tennessee's going to measure up once it's all said and done? Because I know some people still feel like Tennessee's going to lose, especially to UGA. But man, look, Vandy ain't no slouch either. I think personally, I'm more concerned about that Vanderbilt game than I am Georgia. But we got to focus on this week first. And if we have enough time at the end, we will take a look at the status report and see who all is going to be playing, who's going to be out, see if we can make heads or tails of that. And if we can't, narrow down who each individual player is, especially for Mississippi State, then y'all know I'm going to be bringing that to y'all tomorrow. But do us a very big favor, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, man, as soon as y'all come in, just if you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, leave it down in the chat, and we're going to get to you. But first, I got to get to my dog, Timmy G, man. How are you feeling about this matchup coming up this weekend versus Mississippi State?
Pretty good, man. I mean, with the game Nico had last week, I feel really good. I mean, it looks like he's starting to get some things. I mean, receivers got to give the dude some help,
Yeah.
Like we had a couple drops, but outside of that, man, his passing was on the money. That one improv play to Kitzleman in the back end, in the back end zone, that was pretty damn good. Defense played good, man. I think they're improving offensively, so I think this ought to be an interesting game.
Yeah, hopefully it's not going to be too interesting, though, just because, man, I'm going to tell you something, and we'll pull up the stats here in just a minute. But Mississippi State's defense, it's really bad. So I watched film on it. I didn't watch a ton on them because I kept on consistently seeing the same things from everybody on all three levels. And I really think that the offense, I mean, as much as it's already kind of started to open up, we should be able to just go crazy in this game. But the concern for me is going to be with Mississippi State's offense. So we're going to get to that. But let's go ahead and get to some of these chats real quick. Deborah P, what's going on, Deborah? She is a member of the channel. Hope that you're doing well. She's saying, where's that lazy bull? Probably watching some team's game film. LOL. Yeah, you already know. I watch film all the time. Let's get to this one, too, from Deborah P. What part of our red zone game is the most problematic? Play calling, execution, penalties, or all of the above? So we can go ahead and knock that one out real quick. I think that's a very good question, Deborah. Thank you for asking it. So for me, I don't know. I think it's going to be mostly with the execution, just because I've seen us open things up. Timmy G, you talked about that pass play to Miles. That was beautiful, and we can do a lot of those things. And we talked about it for the members, breaking down film. There were some times where Nico on some read options could have kept it, and he would have walked into the end zone untouched. But on some of those plays, he actually handed off, and we still scored. So I think that things are looking pretty solid. Really, our red zone offense to me is not horrible. I just think personally that the execution is what the real issue would be. But Timmy G, what do you think about that?
No, I agree. I think it's execution. I mean, I think she named some things we've seen at different points in the season, though. I mean, we've seen where penalties get down there, and and field goal kicking. God, don't get me started, man. Don't get me started on Max. I'm not going to do it. I think it's execution. I mean, the plays have been there plenty of times. It's before it was either Nico was overthrowing or doing some things. His past games, it was just guys were just dropping them. So, but I think they can get that cleaned up. I think they need to change the way they work with some of these receivers on the jugs machines too, man. Like, don't just stand here and catch them head on, right? Like, put them into some positions to where they have to be accustomed to catching it kind of out of position. But I think execution, man.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And then too, I mean, bringing up, we had 3 missed field goals. I mean, stuff like that'll kill your red zone numbers like quick, just because you've got to put up some type of points. And I mean, like those rankings, it could be like a half of a point, and that'll drop you down like 5 or 6 spots. So that's something else just to kind of keep in mind too. I don't think that it's not that much of a difference. I would say if a team is maybe 20 spots higher than a different team, at that point, you're really starting to see some sort of a difference there. But if it's just like a couple of spots, it's probably not that big of a deal. But yeah, we do need to make sure that we are hitting our field goals. And I think that was a really good point about the wide receivers. I don't know what the heck's going on with them. To me, it's more, and I talked about this earlier. To me, it's a little bit more about just playing looser, like just playing with more confidence. I think we need to play with a lot more confidence. Wide receivers, secondary players, they got to be pretty much cocky. You know what I'm saying? Like if you think about any great wide receiver, any great DB, they were all, they were very confident. Cocky might not be the correct word because they're confident in what they can do. I think that we got to get to that point. And once we get there, which we could probably get there coming out of this game versus a terrible defense, then, man, this offense is absolutely going to take off because I do feel like Nico is starting to get to that point. But let me get right here to the next chat. And if y'all are just coming in, please do us a very big favor. Make sure to like and subscribe. And also, please do leave your thoughts and questions, concerns, everything right here in the chat. We're going to try to get to everybody. But for Matt S right here, what's going on, Matt? He's another member of the channel, says go Vols, baby. You already know. Now, Matt has a question right here saying, what do y'all think the leading factor of of our low scoring offense? I think that it's execution. So Timmy G, you brought up a very good point earlier about how it's been different things throughout the season. Earlier, man, we were just running such a straight up and down offense that it was hard for people to even get open. Like we couldn't really make plays because there were no plays there to be made. But at this point, the way that we're mixing up, I mean, we're doing so many different things that I'm very happy to see it, but there's going to be a lot of things there, and like we've seen it, but now we've got Nico, I think, working on the right page. The running backs still look good. There's still a few things I think within our running game that we could maybe fix just a taste to make sure that we're not getting stopped close to the line of scrimmage. But with the passing game, man, wide receivers have got to step up. But we've seen us mix things up with that with that 12 personnel, where it's not just bunched up. We can kind of spread things out. That's going to put stress on teams. And I mean, hopefully we'll see some of that this weekend. So the teams like Georgia had to get ready for it. Teams like Vanderbilt had to get ready for it. And hopefully, other playoff teams. But I think that we're going to be fine. We just need to execute a little bit better. But Timmy G, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree wholeheartedly, man. Execute. I think that's been one of our prime things. I think early on in the season, obviously, offensive line was not doing that hot, right? In certain situations, that was a factor. And then you had, look, I think Nico was seeing ghosts. So one factor, it's like dominoes, man. Once one thing starts going wrong, it just kind of dominoes and causes other things. But just like something you mentioned, man, I'm really excited about the way I saw them use the tight ends in that last game. Kitzelman had a hell of a game. Stays had a hell of a game. Like those dudes were laying, and it wasn't just passing, man. They were laying some blocks.
Yeah.
Mike Matthews, he got highlighted on that one, man, with the pancake there. I just feel like they're starting to get things clicking. So that's why I'm really excited about this game, because I'd really like to see us opening up in this game and get us ready to go play Georgia.
Yeah. 100%. So let's get to some more right here. We've got Andrew Ginhold. I hope that I pronounced your name correctly, but what's going on with you? Says, I'm thinking Mississippi State is the first team to score over 20 on us, but we ought to be able to hang 50 plus on them. The offense should finally start clicking and hopefully build some confidence for the Georgia game. I think that's a really good point because, I think that it is possible, because if you look at that offense, they can put a lot of stress on you. Huh?
Yeah, they can score.
They can most definitely score. I mean, they're not as bad as maybe some people think. Really, if their defense was even average, I mean, they might
be good.
Like it would be a pretty solid football team. Yeah. So, but hopefully we can step up. This is really, to me, this is a game that Tennessee's defense would thrive a little bit more in, just because of the way that they like to play. What we're going to see is our linebackers being able to get isolated out in space. And it's not going to be as much of them having to get downhill like we saw last week and having to take on blocks, which they've looked a lot better with. But it's also going to be about just being able to ID what the offense is trying to do, which our linebackers do a great job with. And there will be a lot of stress on our box players. I think that we can get home, with 4, but with different blitzes. I think that our secondary, having a lot more passes being thrown at them, I think that they'll be ready for that, right? Like they'll be ready for the different route combinations and all of that. So I think that this team is just kind of like looking towards this challenge. So I kind of feel like, man, Tennessee's defense might maybe shock us, which might sound crazy to say, but they might maybe shock us in this game. And I wouldn't say that we're going to pitch a shutout, but I mean, we might hold them to like 7 to 10 points or something, just because, again, this is an offense that Tim Banks has seen a lot of, not the exact same, every single wrinkle, but he understands, what the high points are for this offense, how they want to operate. What are they trying to do? Like, how are they trying to set you up? So that'll be another, I think, interesting wrinkle to this game is how much does he want to show how you stop Tennessee's offense? Because you know that Georgia's going to have people watching it, and they're going to probably try to mimic it. You know what I mean? So I know that we're kind of like looking past Mississippi State with that answer, but that's how I feel about it, though. And I do think that our offense will be able to definitely put up. I mean, we should be able to put up 50-plus points in this game. If we put up 20, it'll be because we've got so many backups playing very early on. But what do you think about that, Tim?
No, I agree, man. I think the offense has some serious opportunities in this, but I mean, obviously their offense is pretty good and they can score. They've proven that across the year. I mean, they can throw up some points, but I think our defense is playing really good. From what I saw in that last game, we were giving up some chunk plays, but man, they just toughen up in the red zone, and really they're stingy, man. When they get down there, they're really stingy. Some linebackers. I mean, what was is it Perry?
Yeah.
The freshman, isn't he a freshman?
No, so the only freshman would be Edwin Spillman and Jordan Burns. And
okay.
Or maybe you're talking about Jalen Smith. I think Jalen Smith is
maybe it's Jalen Smith. He had it was one of the younger
39?
linebackers. Yeah, he had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, man, I think Ricky Gibson's solid. McCoy is like guys complete passes on him, but those passes are nobody's stopping those passes where those guys are putting them. Like they're just in that spot. And man, he's solid. I think defense is playing really great. I think this is going to be an interesting matchup for us though, because they are a tempo offense.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that's going to be really important in this game is can we get out off the field on third down? I think that's going to be massive because if not, like, listen, our strength is really about being able to rotate. You can't rotate if they run tempo. So, being able to get stops and get off the field is going to be really important in this game.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. I think the only other team that we played against this season that ran tempo was Oklahoma. I don't know if anyone else that we played against really, ran like a true tempo, and they couldn't really get into it that much just because we kept on stopping them. But I do think the Mississippi State's offense is going to operate better than Oklahoma's did. So yeah, it'll definitely be some challenges. But just kind of going back to us in coverage, what I've noticed is we don't operate as well in the zone coverage because we don't do a good job of like always covering people. Sometimes we kind of cover grass, which that's going to happen in zone coverage. And last weekend, I mean, the offense, they just ran plays to kind of attack the weak spots in Tennessee's defense. So, another part of it is we've got to be able to get some pressure. But in this game, we're going to be playing more man-to-man coverage because you kind of have to with the way that, Mississippi State's going to operate. Pretty much the same thing that Tennessee's offense can do to other defenses. We're going to try to isolate you and make you play man-to-man coverage. And that's where Tennessee's going to thrive at because there's not a whole lot of, hey, like, am I covering somebody or not? It's just man on man. And as long as the pass isn't perfect, as long as the quarterback doesn't have a really clean pocket, then we're going to make plays. And we will definitely, I think, in this game, make more plays than Mississippi State's offense does. Let's get right here to some more of these chats. And this one is from Mick Ox Big. Okay, I hope that I said that right.
I think that's Gumps. Is that Gumps?
Oh, is it? It might be, yeah, because I know
he's got
some. What's up, Gumps, if that's you? What's going on, brother? Lofton SR94 says, you think Lewis took Bishop's carries for the rest of the year? I don't know about that because I think, and you know what, Timmy G, I'm gonna let you answer that one first. What do you think about it, man?
Not for the rest of the year, probably not, but as long as he's out and injured, yeah, sure. I think he looked like an ankle injury or something maybe when he was coming out, but I wasn't sure. I thought Peyton looked pretty good though. Man, that kid, he reminds me when I look at him, he reminds me of another Lewis that we were talking about pre-show. size wise, build wise, like he reminds me of him. Jamal Lewis is probably the most NFL looking guy I've ever seen step foot on a field as a freshman. Like he
Yeah,
just
I
looked
mean,
like
out of high school, he looked like a grown man out of high school.
he was a physical phenomenon. He was kind of like Mike Tyson, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like one
sure,
of those
100%.
dudes. He was just already put together. Like you're like, what
Yeah,
is this?
100%.
But man, that kid, he's got so much promise. But no, I think Bishop, because Bishop is so solid. But if they can, obviously if Peyton shows he can, do what they need to do, I think they would rotate all three of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really what I've been looking for, man. Like I've been looking for, when are we going to find that third running back? I thought that it would be Cam Seldon. I still don't understand why Cam isn't really getting carries. Obviously, there's something that he's not doing well. But yeah, Peyton Lewis looked good. But we want to be in a spot where we've got 3 to 4 guys that we can rotate in, because our running game is still the strength of our offense, and we can lean on that. Like we need to be able to lean on that all the way throughout, because then everything else opens up. So really, that's a good problem for us to kind of have at this point. But I'm hoping that we get Cam Seldon involved, because if we don't, he's going to be gone after this season. And I do feel like we need to move forward, because he is that bigger body guy. He's very fast. Him and Peyton Lewis, very similar. I don't know who's the fastest out of those two, but that's probably 1A, 1B, the fastest players on this team. And they're both, like 6'1", 225 plus. So I think we're in a really
good. Did he do any special teams last game? I don't remember if I saw him.
Was that Cam?
Yeah.
I don't remember
if I saw him back there like to return kicks or not. That's why I was wondering, like, did he get banged up again or what's going on there? But
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't want him to be hurt or nothing, but I would rather it be something more like that. And it's not that, hey, he's not
getting time. Right.
See what I'm saying? Yeah, I'd rather be like that. All right, so let's see what else we got. Okay, so we got to that one. Oh, okay. All right, so right there says, don't say that name. All right, sorry. Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's come on down to Matt says, what the heck is up with Seldon? I actually had high hopes for him this year. Yeah, so we just kind of touched on that. That's the same question. I mean, yeah, I'm hoping that he's going to be okay. I hope that we get to see him some this weekend. I want to see some of Keith too. You know what I mean? Because he's another one.
We haven't seen him since, I don't think we've seen him since the North Carolina State game.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while since he got back out there. So Gary Harper, what's going on? Gary says we better score some points this week or we're cooked. 100%. I mean, we definitely have to score up against a team like this, because they can score. You know what I mean? But you also have to keep in mind that with that tempo, they're going to be playing inside of Neyland. Might not be as loud as it typically is, but it'll probably still be the loudest place that they've played at this season, even though they played up against some really good teams. I'm not trying to say that, but Neyland is just different. So that should help the defense out. But I am not concerned about us scoring on this defense. I'm just not. I mean, it would be very hard for us not to score and score several times. Lofton SR 94 says, hypothetical question. If you could add 2 wide receivers from the last 5 years with Nico, who would it be? Tim, would you like to take this one first?
That's pretty simple, if you ask me. And you don't have to go back far. I would go back to 2022. I'd take Cedric Tillman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cedric, I'd take him, and I'd take Jalen. That way, you've got a guy on the outside and you've got a guy in the slot. And
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that, man.
I think. Go ahead. But I think Tillman's going to have probably the better pro career out of the two guys.
Yeah, I think so.
He's big body. He can high point balls, man. He's a strong guy. He's not going to get pushed around so much. Those are the two, and I think that's simple in the last 5. Maybe I'm forgetting somebody, but
yeah. So Jawan Jennings, that wasn't in the last 5 years.
That's been a minute.
That was going to be my other one.
Yeah.
I mean, I might have to go with those 2 as well. Is there somebody that I'm overlooking? I kind of feel like it is. I think that would probably be my 2 as well, especially having a guy like Hyatt who can really take that top off. And he seemed like he was a lot more consistent catching the football down the field. I think that he just tracked it well. But it could also just be because there was no one within like 5 to 10 yards of him.
And I think him and Hendon just synced up
They were on
perfect.
the same
Like
page.
they were on the same page. Like Hendon had Jalen down. He knew where he was going to be at any certain point. Man, he had the timing down on those throws.
Yeah. I'm hoping that we can see Squirrel kind of get back to what he's done. Because I think that if you're talking about a deep threat, he's got to be one of the top ones. But then too, I mean, you've got Dante Thornton, who he's bigger, but I think he's just as fast as Squirrel is. Brazel's not far. I mean, we've got a lot of guys that can operate down the field with this team. We just haven't seen it as much. And I don't know, honestly speaking, if Cedric Tillman or if Hyatt are like either one of them physically better than what we have on the roster right now. If you're looking at their strengths, because Hyatt is speed, which he's probably faster than anybody we have, but not by much. And then with Tillman, he's a guy that he's kind of like a tough guy. He can make all the catches. He runs really nice routes. But we've got several players who can do that. They just haven't done it consistently this season. But I think that was a really good question. Let's come on down. Let me see. I always lose my spot whenever I'm doing this. All right. So right here, Peyton Lewis looks large, and from everything I'm hearing, is the fastest. Yeah. So that's the thing, man. You got a prototype, like an NFL prototype running back as a true freshman that runs fast. What I think I liked the most about watching him last weekend was his patience, was how he can kind of mix things up because he'll press that hole, then he'll get through the hole, but he also runs hard whenever he needs to. So he's just a very balanced all-around back, like what we saw from him coming out of high school. He can also catch the football coming out of the backfield too, something that he did not do a lot of in high school. So I think that he's going to be special for sure. Let's get to some more of these right here. Also saying that Selden has only been in 4 games. Yeah. As far as running back, or is that overall? Is that top to bottom?
I'm not sure.
I would like to know about that. Okay, so I think he's
No,
redshirting.
skip the
Oh,
next one.
wow. Okay, I see. All right, skip that one. All right, I got you. Thank you.
Skip the next one.
All right, so I'll skip that one. All right, so Gary Harper. We weren't worried about scoring on Florida and Kentucky either. But you know what? That's a really good point. But we scored enough to win. And honestly speaking, I never personally myself, I said that, look, Florida's defense is good. I still think Florida's defense is one of the best that we've faced all season. I thought that we would have a little bit of trouble. I think that I said Tennessee would win that game by like 7 points or something. I didn't think the Warriors going to blow them out. Now, Kentucky, on the other hand, I felt like we would be able to. And how many points did we score in that game, Tim? Let me see if I can pull it up.
28, 24, 28 or 24.
Yeah, it was something like that. Okay, I think I got rid of that. Yeah, so it was something like that. So, yeah, I mean, we do have to do a better job, but keep in mind that Kentucky's defense is light years better than Mississippi State's defense. Just to put it in a good point of reference, I think that Kent State's defense might be better than Mississippi State's. Like that's what we're facing. Yeah, wow. Like it's literally like that. Yeah, wow. Their defense is horrible. So we shouldn't have any problem scoring. But Tim, do you see any reason that we should have some problem scoring? And actually, I want to start to pull up these stats here, but I'm gonna get to that once you get done with your thought.
No, not scoring. I don't. And I think Dylan Sampson, especially if you're saying it's like that. I didn't realize. How do you get that bad of a defense in the SEC?
They don't have any talent.
That's
they don't
wild.
have any talent. And I'm not picking on folks because I don't. That's not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, no, I get it, but
they do not have any talent. I've never seen anything like it.
Huh.
Like not like SEC level. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. They have literally no talent. Yeah, it's really bad. There's not a player on their team that I think, or there's not a player on their defense that I think would be in the 3 deep rotation on our defense. I'm keeping it real with you when I say that. All right, so let's come on down. Let's get to some more of these. Hyatt wasn't the cleanest route guy, but he moved fluid and blew past people. Yeah, and sometimes you just need that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because sometimes you just got to be able to throw the football down the field. Let's take a look real quick, y'all. We're going to get right back to the chat here in just a second, but let's pull up some of these stats because we have been talking about Mississippi State's offense. And you can see right here that, honestly speaking, their numbers aren't horrible. Okay, they're averaging about 400 yards per game, about 5.8 yards per play. They're scoring about 29 points per game. And that's not great, but passing numbers about 255 through the air. I mean, that's not great,
It's
but
not
it's not
bad.
absolutely horrible. Yeah, I think that actually their passing offense is better than Tennessee's passing offense. Just as a point of reference, and I think that they've played a tougher schedule than Tennessee has too. But rushing, their rushing numbers are better than Georgia's are. You know what I'm saying? And people always talk about how tough Georgia's schedule is. I think if you really look from top to bottom, Mississippi State's schedule is just as tough as Georgia's was. I mean, they played up against the exact same teams outside of Alabama. So, I mean, pretty much like all the tough ones. So, I mean, you have to look at that. Third down, they're number 33. That's not bad numbers. Red zone is not great. You know what I'm saying? They've got to do a little bit better there. I think that's why they're not scoring as many points, because they stall out once they get to that red area. But then turnovers, only 5 picks. That's less than Tennessee's thrown, but 7 fumbles. I think a whole lot of that's probably coming from some, strip sack fumbles and things like that. But yeah, I mean, you can see obviously Tennessee's defense on paper looks like we should be able to dominate. But is there anything right there, Tim, or anyone else that's watching? You can leave it down inside of the chat that just stands out to you about looking at these stats right here with Tennessee's defense versus Mississippi State's offense.
I mean, I like where we stand on this. Number one, I mean, our defense versus their rushing, and if you can't run on Tennessee, you are in trouble. When James Pierce comes through there like he did with the Kentucky QB, what was his name?
Yeah, Brock.
He put him out after that nice little hug he gave him. He didn't even really tackle him; he just ran him over. Like if you can't run the ball and those guys can pin their ears back, you're in serious trouble.
Yeah,
like they're going to come after you. It could be interesting, and obviously Neyland's going to be rowdy.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, it most definitely should be. All right, so we're gonna get to some more of these chats. All right, so right here from Andral says, I noticed on those quick screens that we throw to the big wide receiver a lot, and the smaller one blocks. Is there a reason for that? So I haven't noticed that too much. I actually feel like the bigger guy is the one that typically blocks, but I would think that if we mix it up some, it's just to mix it up some, just to give a different look, because these teams have so much access to film and to tendencies that any small little thing they can get that beat, and it's a game of inches. You don't want to just give teams an easy pass to, hey, this is what we're doing. And also keep in mind that a lot of the quick screen game that Tennessee does, it's going to be the same thing with Mississippi State, is operating off of the RPO. So there's a run option, also a pass option. And, I think that it would just make more sense that the bigger guy needs to block and then the smaller guy catches it. But that's my take on it. Tim, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think I've seen him run it both ways, and I think it's just for why you mentioned it, just to mix things up and give some different looks, and just so they're just not sitting on it, waiting on it to happen whenever we do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yep. All right, so we've got maybe in about 10 to 15 minutes, the status report will be out, so we're going to check on that as well. And let me get to some more of these because we want to make sure that we're getting to everybody. Love Lewis driving through the linebacker to score. I did too, overall. And Lofton SR94 says, think we get Nico V Arch next year. What is this? What is this V Arch?
Versus Arch.
Nico versus okay. Arch. All right. I'm tripping.
Yeah, Texas. We play Texas next year is what he means.
No, Texas is not on our schedule next year.
I don't know. Honestly, I haven't even looked at next year's schedule if it's out, to be honest.
Yeah, so how it was, unless things have changed, how it was supposed to be was the SEC schedules are the same this year and next year, and it just flips. So every team that we played at home, I think we're supposed to be playing on the road. Now, unless something changed, that's how things were. So we should not be playing Texas unless we see them in the playoffs or an SEC championship or something like that. But that would be a lot of fun to see that matchup because I think Arch is really good. And people have tried to say, well, Arch is better than Nico. I always thought that Nico was better, but they've got kind of like different playing styles. I think that Nico gives you a lot more. He's he can improvise, I think, maybe more because he can use his legs. We need to see him use his legs a lot more for these next couple of weeks too. But I think that he also probably has a stronger arm. I think he's going to be more accurate on the run and things like that. But Arch is, if you're talking about operating inside of like a pro style offense, I think that, I think he's going to be a problem. And I really wouldn't be surprised to maybe see at some point if Sark doesn't say, man, look, we're just going to roll with Arch, because I think that he's played better this season than Ewers has. That's how I feel about it personally. All right, let's get to some more of these real quick. All right, so Mississippi State had a lot of transfers after Mike Leach. Yeah, that would make sense, but the offensive style, it's kind of similar. Well, no, I can't even really say that, because that air raid, that's a totally different offense. With Levy being a hypo guy, his offense depends on the run just as ours. I do think when we get up by 21 or so, hypo doesn't go after Levy's throat. That's a really good point. I don't think that we're going to look to try to run things up, and we're going to try to touch on, some of the playoff stuff. But one of the things that I've felt just in listening to the chairman talk about it is, you kind of got to put those style points up, man. Like, if you get the opportunity to just keep on putting up points, I think that you want to do that just in case. So it'll be interesting now, after they've kind of come out with those rankings, how are teams going to play? You know what I mean? Are teams going to start to, take their foot off the gas? Or are they going to try to keep on putting up points? I would not be surprised to see several teams trying to do that. But, Tim, what do you think about that? And I'm about to try to look up and see what the schedule is for next season.
What are we talking about?
So Levy and Hype, that they used to they coached on the same staff. Actually, I think was Levy might have been.
I'm pretty sure they're friends. But honestly, if Heupel knows that we have to put up style points, he'll just tell him, "Hey, buddy, I'm sorry." After the game, I think that's what he'll do. He'll be like, "Hey, man, sorry, I got to do this because this is what the committee wants." And let's be honest, Mississippi State doesn't have a shot at that. So, is that guy going to hold any bad feelings about it? Probably not. He knows what's up. So no, I would just dump a ton on him. So I would do if I had a chance. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I did check on the schedule, and it is like I said. It's just, as far as the SEC goes, it just flips. So the games we played home this season, we're going to be on the road, and the games we played on the road, we're going to be at home, and not this season, but next season. Now we do got to get right here to a super chat from my dog Chatsworth. For $20. Thank you so much for that, Chatsworth. Says a few bucks for you, brother. You always give such great information and insight. Go Big Orange. Thank you so much for that. We are going to play the clip for you. Just give me a second so that I can pull that up. But we always appreciate all the super chats. Here we go. Appreciate that so much. So we are going to continue to get to the chats, okay? Let me get back to the spot that I was at. All right, so we got that pulled up. Now, I do want to talk real quick just about Tennessee's offense versus Mississippi State's defense, so that people can, if you haven't already seen this, you can get a good understanding of what I was talking about. They're like the bottom,
wow.
Like bottom 10% in almost every major category that actually matters. Really bad. And if you look, all right, so if you look next to scoring up under Mississippi State, you're going to see that they average 0.78 sacks per game. They're number 131 in the country. They have 7 sacks on the season. 7. That is very hard to do. That, like, it's hard to not even stumble or accidentally get more than 7 sacks in a season. So that's almost dead last. That's 131 out of 133 teams. But you see that they're giving up about 34 points per game. And Tennessee's averaging about 38 points per game. We got to get those numbers up, man. We got to get up to about 43, 44 before it's all said and done. They're giving up almost, 462 yards per game. They're giving up 250 through the air, 211, almost 212 on the ground. Tennessee should be able to run for
that's crazy,
close to 300 in this game. Easy. Easy. But again, the game's not played on paper. It's played on the field. So, we'll see, because I think if you actually look back over the course of Tennessee's history versus Mississippi State, they always give us a pretty challenging game. And I don't, they've never really been, we've probably played them a couple times when they were actually, rated pretty high. But this is one of the worst Mississippi State teams, especially on defense, that maybe they've ever had. So our offense had better. Somebody said this earlier. Our offense had better be able to put up points. So we're going to be in trouble moving forward. No questions asked about that. But is there anything that stands out to you, Tim, just in looking at those numbers?
There's a lot that stands out to me on this, and none of it's good for Mississippi State, bro.
Yeah.
If they're averaging giving up 211 yards on the ground, that's crazy. 461 yards in the air. That's just wild. Oh no, that's total. I'm sorry, but 400. That's a lot. Good Lord, that's a lot of yards to give up in one game. Man, that's it's not good. It's not
Yeah.
good for them.
Yeah, I mean, it literally should be a game that everybody gets a whole lot of confidence from, and I think that that's what we need moving forward. So, I think that this is exactly what Tennessee needed. I've said it several times, but the schedule, it lines up perfectly. And we are about to get back to these chats. Let me get to the super chat real quick from Gary Harper for $50. Wow, thank you so much. Says,
Thanks, buddy.
he says at Chatsworth, I raised you $30. I love the content, Blue. Thank y'all so much. Let me get to the super chat right here. Appreciate it so much, everybody. And we've got another one that we're going to get to right here from Lofton SR94 for $5. Thank you so much for that. Lofton says, appreciate the content. Go Big Orange. Thank y'all, man.
Sir.
Y'all are being very, very kind tonight. Appreciate it. All right, so we are going to try to take a look real quick. I'm going to see if I can pull this up, but I want to take a look and see if the status reports have been updated, so that we can see what that's looking like. And if this is y'all's first time looking at this, just understand it doesn't like it's been updated just yet. But once it does come up, we will take a look at it. But just understand that this is subject to change, okay? Like this stuff, it changes day to day, but it is not ready yet. So we are going to get to some more of these chats because we want to try to get to everybody. Let me get back to my spot. Okay, right here.
Deborah,
Yep, Deborah. All right, cool. All right, so Deborah P says, what do you think of our playoff ranking this week? That's a really good question. I'm fine with it. You know what I mean? And we are going to talk about that here in just a minute. Actually, we could probably go ahead and flip pages to that real quick. But yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly fine with it. We didn't fall from the AP poll, and some people thought that we would, but I think that it does show. And you know what? The only thing that maybe I would have an issue with is that we're not above Penn State. But Tim, what do you think about it?
I'm happy. I mean, obviously it could be better, but I don't think we can be that angry when we had 1 week off. And listen, if we wouldn't have dropped 3 touchdown passes and we beat Kentucky by, put another 30 points on the board, then, maybe I'd say something different. But I like where we're at right now. Honestly, I think with where we're sitting right now, we would wind up with we would host a game in Neyland in the playoffs in the first round. Correct?
If we do what now? I'm sorry.
I believe at least from what I saw earlier this week, it was showing that like we would host Notre Dame.
Oh, was it
at home?
Okay, I don't know why I thought that it was.
Or maybe it was Indiana.
Yeah,
maybe
okay,
it was Indiana. Yeah. I've seen 2 different ones. So,
yeah.
And you know how that goes. Everybody throws up their own thing. But listen, if we get to host a game in Neyland, I'm all about
playoff game.
Yeah. A playoff game. You want to talk about wild? That thing will. They'll take the top off that place.
Oh, no question. And that would
be, it'd be a night game too.
Excuse me. Yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much all we've played all season. Which I guess is probably good because I feel like Tennessee's ready for them now, hopefully. But I do feel like Tennessee plays better in the day. I don't know why, but hopefully we will be able to get maybe a day game or 2 at some point. Just so that we can, I think that our players are more ready because especially if you're not playing up against a very good team, you got to wait in the locker room or, whatever inside the hotel room all day long. I mean, it's very easy to just kind of like get off track. Yeah, you know what I mean? But we do right here, okay? These are the playoff rankings are going to be on the left, and then on the right is going to be the AP poll rankings. I like this one just because it shows you the difference there. Oregon at number 1. I don't really have an issue with that. Excuse me. But I talked about it before. Ohio State being at 2 over Georgia. What that tells me personally is that there might be some bias because there's really no reason that Ohio State should be ranked over Georgia. And y'all know that I can't stand Georgia, but
Mhm.
I'm just calling it like it is. That's a problem. Anything else on here though, Tim, that kind of stands out to you? That just maybe like
No, I mean, outside of what you said about Penn State, but I think that just goes back to it being Ohio State that they took the loss to. So, and you see where they have Ohio State ranked, right? So,
yeah. But Penn State hasn't really played anybody. Their strength of schedule is pretty low. I mean, really, none of those teams. They haven't really, well, actually, you know what? Penn State's strength of schedule, I think, is at 28, and Tennessee's is at 33. So their strength of schedule technically is higher than Tennessee's. But I mean, dude, come on. Like we already know. I feel like there's not really a team in the Big Ten that I look at and I say, oh man, I'm concerned if Tennessee has to play up against this team. I'm just not. There's a lot of problems I feel like inside of that conference. And don't get me started on Indiana. Yes, they haven't lost a game, but they also haven't played anybody. I feel like we maybe should have learned our lesson from Clemson. And for them to be ranked over BYU, that's a slap in the face because BYU has played better competition than Indiana has. I don't think Indiana has played one team all season that has a record over 500. So, I mean, just think about how many SEC teams could have played Indiana's schedule and not have lost a game. We might have, 12 teams, 12, 13, 14 teams that could have played that exact same schedule and have the exact same record. So, with that being said, something else that I look at with the playoffs is how many, look at all the SEC teams. I think it's like 7 that could still go 10-2. And the SEC strength of schedule, it's a lot tougher than any other conference from top to bottom. It just is. So I think that, we should get more credit. And if they did this fair, then it would really be, look, SEC is going to get in 5 teams just off the top. Like, we don't care about, and I know some people like this, but the whole group of 5 deal, because just imagine LSU playing Boise State or Alabama playing Boise State or Texas or any of these other teams playing Boise State. How much do you think that those teams would beat them by?
Oh, it would not be good. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So those are just some of my gripes, but I definitely want to hear what some other people's thoughts are down in the comments section. But for me, the biggest thing is just that style points matter, man. You've got to put up points. You've got to have a nice looking offense. I think that balance will probably play some sort of a role, but those deep passes, teams that have a really nice offense, it seems like they're being ranked a little bit higher, and having really big wins might not mean as much as having some close losses. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you have a really good loss, it almost seems like they weigh that better than having big wins, because Georgia went on the road and beat the number 1 team in the country, I think, at that time, Texas. But they're ranked under Ohio State, who has not played up against was Oregon number 1 when the Buckeyes played them?
I don't think they were they?
Okay,
I think Ohio State was above them, right?
I think that they were too. Yes. So that's just funny to me that they get credit for barely losing to a team on the road. But either way, man, I think that there's a whole lot of politics that are involved with it. But we're going to leave this up so that people can take a look at it. So right here from Gary Harper, we will absolutely run it up if we can for the style points. I think that we need to, no doubt. Deborah P says, well deserved. Thank you so much for that. And now Gumps is saying, yes, we need style points, but if we drop 40 in the first half, that should speak to itself in respect for opponent, as well as getting backup reps. Levy was his offensive coordinator, I think. Yeah, so it's going to be funny how all that type of stuff weighs out, because I don't feel like, just in listening, I know that the guy, that chairman for the college football playoff voting team, I know that he didn't have a whole lot of time to kind of answer those questions, so he had to try to keep it short. But I didn't feel like that was even a thought. You know what I mean? I just feel like they say, well, we're going to watch these games. I think that it's more about, well, this team, we feel like this team is better. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if I trust those people's judgment. I really don't, because it's obviously not correct. I don't know if you could say at this point that Indiana is a better team than BYU if you've watched both of them play. Right here from Kids Bob 38, straight fire. What's going on? Says Cam Seldon is likely going after this year. Too big of a recruit to not get playing time, and I absolutely blame that on Hypo. There's no way you have a 94 recruit and they just not perform. Yeah, you know what though? I don't know, and I understand what your point is, and Tim, I want to get your thoughts on this, but I don't know if I could just straight up blame that on Hype, because players don't always pan out, and it could be for a million different reasons. You know what I'm saying? Like going from high school to college, right? It's such a transition. So, and I wouldn't say that Selden is a bust or nothing like that.
No.
But those are my thoughts, Tim. What do you think about it?
No, I agree. Number one, here's the thing you have to think about when you think about Cam Selden is hell of an athlete coming out. I mean, his all the stats, right? The speed, the size, whatever. He played at a very small school, and they so we're not talking about somebody who's coming out of 7A Georgia, right? I mean, it's not the same. So his level of competition was a lot different, and now he's here, and that is the biggest jump that I feel, and maybe I'm wrong. I mean, obviously I've never played in pro, so I can't say about that. But from high school to college, like that's a whole different world, man. When you get up there, everybody's big boy, Yeah. It's a whole different world. Everybody's fast. Everybody's huge. You're looking at just specimens everywhere. Cam's done okay. He just hasn't had a breakout yet, but he's also had a lot of problems with the injuries. He's been dinged up a lot. He's been dinged up a lot this year. He's played a little bit, but he hasn't played much. But the reason he hasn't played that much, I think, is due to injuries this season. But I don't know. I don't know if he leaves or not. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. That's something every kid's got to think about and deal with. But I think there's some other factors there too, and especially when you're looking at running backs. And if you're not seeing a running back or you're not seeing a wide receiver play, it's not necessarily sometimes why they're not playing is not necessarily to do with their can they run the ball. It's can they block a guy. You know what I mean? Are they doing all these other things that they haven't had to do in high school? When a running back comes in from high school, he doesn't know pass blocking. That's not do pass blocking in high school, man. Not often, that's for sure. But I just think it's a different world. I would hate to see him go, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that those are all very excellent points. But yeah, I think that he's fine. You know what I'm saying? I honestly do. I think that he's fine. If he was a guy that could help us, or if he's in a situation to help us, and it could be because of the injuries, like you said, it could be because maybe he's not picking something up. It could be a multitude of different things. Then the staff would play him, and I think that he understands that. Just in kind of hearing some of the, like behind the scenes with his personality, it seems like he does understand that. I think that he'll be patient. He knows that his time is going to come. Hopefully, it will come this season, though, because, like you said, Tim, I would absolutely hate to lose him. But you know what? Speaking of injuries, I do want to go ahead and take a look at this injury report real quick, or I'm sorry, the status report. So we're going to pull that up for everybody right here. Okay, so this is the first one. It's going to be the first of many, all the way up to, I think, like 90 minutes before kickoff. But you can see that there's several players that's out for Mississippi State. And I think that a lot of these guys probably have maybe been out. But so I can't say right now if any of these people are going to be some sort of a big deal. None of the names are standing out to me that would be new. But as far as Tennessee goes, Edwin Spillman, oh, man, so Bishop is going to be out. And Tyree West is questionable. So interesting, very interesting.
So Tim, you will see either Peyton Lewis or Cam Selden as long as Cam's healthy in this game.
We should see them both. That's what my hope is. I want to see us rotate 3 backs in more. And it's crazy because for most of the year we've only rotated 2, and that could be another part of the problem. Like we've got to find ways to get people in, and I get it because D. Samp, he's one of the best. He's top 2 running backs in the entire country, right? I mean, he's the best player on our offense. So we've got to ride his hot hand, but mix up with the backups. You know what I'm saying? Like find a way to get some fresh bodies in there and to keep them moving. But pretty interesting stuff right here. Edwin Spillman still being out. I mean, when is he going to come back? That's
yeah, man. Like we're feel like we're pretty deep into the season, and he's been gone almost the entire season, right?
Yeah, I wonder. He must have had some type of surgery. I mean, I don't want to speculate, y'all. So please don't take what I'm saying like I know it for a fact. I'm just like, yeah, it has kind of been a minute. Typically, whenever you stay out for that long, you've had some sort of a surgery or something. But I thought that it was an upper body deal. Do you have any clue about like what his injury might be, Tim?
No, I
Okay.
don't. Yeah, but also on Deshaun, I think maybe Deshaun, maybe they're just resting him, trying to make sure that he's up and ready for the Georgia game.
I
Because
think so too.
I think they think they're going to need him. But,
I think so too. Yeah, I think that that's an excellent point. Actually, speaking of the Georgia game, because as I was scrolling through here, I got a little glimpse, I got a little glimpse of look at this right here. All right, so Georgia doesn't really have anybody out. Okay, they don't really have anybody. So obviously, Munden, that's the inside linebacker. He's questionable. He's probably going to play. It probably won't make that much of a difference if he doesn't. But look at this for Ole
good
Miss.
Lord.
That's ridiculous. I mean, they are beat up. They're really beat up.
Good Lord, man. I mean, like, is it that, or are they trying not to get fined with that new faking injury rule?
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Look, maybe. I mean, if I've never seen an injury report like this. Like this is absolutely wild. I mean, scroll up. How far you got to scroll to get to the top? That ain't even the top of that thing, is it?
Yeah, you gotta go a little ways.
What? That's wild, man. I mean, that is.
And you know what, Tim?
20-something names on here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an excellent point. That most of those people will play. I think that Kiffin has done this before this season. I haven't paid too much attention to other teams' injury lists and stuff like that, but I feel like I've heard or read somebody say that they've done this in prior games. So it might be some gamesmanship to this.
Look how many are on the probable.
Huh?
Look how many are on the probable. That's a lot of people on probable.
Yeah, that's almost the whole starting offense or defense. That's ridiculous.
And he uses a lot of them too. He doesn't. Most people are like Heupel's and ours. It's like out or questionable. You know, he's got probable, questionable, doubtful, and out. He's got like 4 different categories on here. I don't really normally see 3, but yeah.
Yep. So all right, so that's how that looks. And it just for right now, Tennessee feels like we're going to come into this game pretty healthy. Or I would say very healthy. We just need to come out of it the exact same way, right? And hopefully we can be even more healthy heading into that Georgia game. So I would love to see Tennessee get the opportunity to come out, take care of business early, get some young guys in, get them reps and all that good stuff, and get them some confidence moving forward, because we'll probably need to lean on some of those players, especially once we get into the playoffs. I'm claiming that that's what's going to happen. All right, so let's let me make sure that I didn't miss any. Tim, do you remember where we were at?
I think we're right here at Chatsworth, right here below the green one, I think.
Chatsworth. All right, so let's get to Chatsworth. Says that's a shame they lose players and their coach. He was a great guy and a colorful coach. I wonder what they're talking about right here.
Tim, talking about Leach.
Oh, Leach.
So they're talking about Leach.
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah, man. Leach
was a freaking national treasure, man. That dude was absolutely hilarious and really on the edge of offenses. Like he was a offensive mastermind.
For sure. Yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about Mike Leach. I haven't heard any bad things about him behind the scenes either. All right, so right there, just kind of concurring with that. Let's see if we can get to some of these questions. Heupel studied under Leach too, adapted a version and created his own offense. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that came off of that Leach tree.
Yeah.
And really, if you think about it, man, that air raid offense.
That all goes back to Baylor, right? Wasn't that what was in the art?
Bryles or Broyles?
Yes.
Yeah. Or Bryles. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but yeah. So that was more. I don't know if his offense was air raid. I guess maybe it kind of was. I don't know a whole lot about his offense, but that air raid itself is hard to stop, because from my understanding of it, it's literally just like the wide receivers just run to the open spot on almost every single play. So I think maybe that's some of the stuff that Heupel took from it with the option routes, but it seems like it would be hard to operate. And I think that that's what Miami's running, but you see how good, whenever the quarterback's on the same page with the wide receiver, you see how good that offense can look. I believe Miami has the #1 offense in the entire country. So yeah, I mean, it's still deadly to this day. It's just all about being able to execute. And right here, Gary Harper saying Indiana. I think that's going back to the conversation we had earlier. Gail Yates says, always enjoy the show, Bull. You and P do a fine job. And of course, Tim does as well. Keep it up. Go Big Orange. Thank you so much for those kind words. We most definitely appreciate it. Mississippi State is undefeated against Indiana's schedule. I don't know if they would be undefeated, but I do think that Mississippi State would win a lot of games versus that schedule.
Their record would look better than it is
It would
now.
look a lot better than it does now. That there's no question.
Yeah.
It would look a lot better. Lofton SR94 says, if you could coach one position group on this team, where would you go? Oh boy. Tim, would you like to take this first?
Oh hell no!
Uh,
They don't want me there. They don't want me there coaching. They're like this is a different league than what I played with. All the stuff like they would have to coach me for a year before I could do anything. Um, I mean, my experience was like, I mean, we used to call it outside linebacker, defensive end. I guess now I would be a Leo or something
mhm.
like that. And then that and pulling guard, which made 0 sense for my frame size. I just like to hit people. That's all I wanted to do when I played. I wanted to hit somebody, and that was it.
I love
Um,
that.
that was it, man. But one of my problems was I was a leaper. You know what
You
I
was a what?
mean? I
A
was a
leaper?
leaper. Yeah.
Oh
You
yeah,
know
it
what
was
I
like
mean? I
yeah,
always,
yeah.
yeah. So I would miss a tackle when I should make it because I was just always trying to take somebody's head off. I
Yeah.
was always wanting to decleat somebody, and that's not the way you need to play.
Yeah,
But
shoot.
yeah,
That's all right though, man. I actually love players like that. It's almost like Edwin Spillman kind of, where the staff said, "Look, we'd rather have to pull a guy back than to push a guy forward."
yeah,
So that's a real football answer. If I could only coach one position, it would have to be quarterback, just because that's the most important. And I don't, I mean, obviously, I'm not undermining any of the coaching staff or nothing like that, but that's just what I would like to do. Like, I would like to be able to get with Nico and just like let him ball out. Like, I would say, man, look, I want you to play like you're playing in the backyard. You know what I'm saying? Like back in your old neighborhood or something.
yeah.
I would say
That'd be
that.
cool.
But I would also like to coach the edge rushers, because I want to see them implement some more pass rush moves. And I've talked about that over the past few weeks, because I think that if we can do that versus Georgia, if we can just get some counter moves, we can get pressure on Carson Beck. Almost everything that I think of and talk about on this channel, it's about trying to help us win a national title. So,
About beating
yeah, I would
Georgia
love to
for
be able
you.
to do that. Huh?
I said it's about beating Georgia for you.
Yeah. Oh, that's number one, because I knew that we was gonna have to beat them if we wanted to make it to the playoffs. It's like that's a must win. I think Tennessee's got to win that game. So yeah, that, and then too. So I played cornerback. So I love to coach anything in the secondary. I would love to coach anything, man. Like any of it. I would love just to be able to be up there with those guys and just get hands on. That was a really good question though. Let's
Yeah.
get back to Let's get to my dog right here, MG Way. What's going on, brother? Says, what's up, y'all? What it
What's up,
do?
buddy?
Dirty Higgins. What's going on, Dirty Higgins? Says, we should never forget that Penn State shouldn't even have a program after the horrible stuff they allowed to happen. Makes me sick. That's a really good point. Like,
That
I hate to
was
think about it,
that
you
was
know.
wild. Yeah.
So who was the coach after that? Was it Bill O'Brien?
No, it was Paterno, wasn't it? Or
No,
Petrino.
I'm saying who's the coach after it?
Oh, I don't even remember.
I wonder if it was O'Brien. But right now, Penn State has James Franklin, who coached my brother. So I mean, we love James Franklin. I want to see him win that big game. So I don't like to talk bad about Penn State or nothing like that, but he does, man. He's got to find a way to just be able to like get over that hump. But yeah, it is. It's crazy whenever stuff like that can happen. But I'm happy that they took care of all the stuff that they need to take care of with it. MGWay says no, it was 2 verse 3. I might have missed something right there. What is that talking about?
I'm not sure.
All right, so maybe you could clarify that for us down in the chat, MG Way. I'm with Dirty on that. That crap was wrong. Yeah, it was. I think that we're all on the same page with that. Gary Harper says that Mizzou win is doing the heavy lifting for Bama to be 11. That's why Mizzou is still ranked. That's pretty interesting, because you know what? If that's the case, I think, Tim, that Mizzou might be about to lose some more ball games. I don't think that their strength of schedule is that tough for the rest of the season, but I think that they've kind of packed it in. I would not be surprised to see them lose some more, and maybe that could help Alabama maybe drop out of there, because I really don't even want Alabama to make it to the playoffs. I don't want them to even have a chance. You
That's
know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
but they get that Ohio State treatment, right? I mean, Ohio State, Notre Dame, they get the
Georgia.
roll treatment. Yeah, they roll out the
Mhm.
red carpet for those guys. They're always going to give them the benefit of the doubt and the breaks because they are who they are, and that's the way they look at it. It's all recency bias.
It is. It is. It is. All right. So you know what? We're gonna get back to some more of these chats, but I want to get y'all's thoughts. I said we've got a lot, and actually we might cut off the chats. We might cut off the chats in like the next couple of minutes. So I see the last one right here, and we'll just let like a couple more, and then we're gonna just try to get to everybody. But I do want to get y'all's thoughts. Well, dang, I guess I can't cut off the chat and get people's thoughts, can I? But I do want to get people's thoughts on what do you think about the college football playoff model? Because like I had touched on, 7 teams could still go 10-2 in the SEC. If you look at Tennessee and Ole Miss, because if Ole Miss wins this weekend versus Georgia, and like everyone likes to talk about, if Tennessee loses to Georgia, could Tennessee still get in? Because Ole Miss would be ranked number 2, or I'm sorry, Ole Miss would have 2 losses, and so would Tennessee if we end up winning all the rest of these games. I think that if you look at the strength of schedule, Tennessee should get in, but then you've got Ole Miss's offense that's really good, that I think would probably help them get in. So, Tim, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know what to think about it so far this year. I think we're going to have to see it play out. One thing I don't like is like certain what are you're guaranteed like all the conference champions are guaranteed to be in or something like that. I think you're going to see a lot of teams that are just okay. You're in there, but you're going to get steamrolled. So why are you holding the spot when there's somebody that's obviously better that isn't didn't get that shot? I don't know. We'll see. But I think we already know the answer of what they're going to do to this. They're going to run this out here for a year, and they're going to do it a year or two, and then they go, oh, well, we got to go to 14. Because let's face it, it's more games, more money. It's just really that simple.
1,000%. Like that's really what it all boils down to at the end. But I think that what needs to happen is, man, like let's just go to 2 super conferences and make it like the NFL, because it's too like this. It's not fair to all these teams in the SEC that are not going to be able to make the playoffs that are better than some of those other teams that are going to make it over them. That's not fair. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just not fair. So I think that they're going to have to switch things up. Like it's getting to a point now where teams are going to say, okay, well, if this is how the people voting on this are going to look at it, let's not schedule any tough out of conference games, because what's the point? Let's just play the easiest teams that we can play, and let's just win out, because we'll get in if we do that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see some teams say, let's go to the Big 12. You know what I'm saying? Like let's leave from the SEC and go to they probably wouldn't do that because they'll lose out on so much money. But at some point, they're just going to have to buckle down and bring in all the best teams from the other conferences and combine them with the SEC and with the Big 10 and call that a day. Like that's what needs to happen. All right, so let me get to this one right here. From Dirty Higgins, says Selden has lost so much practice time that he hasn't even been able to really get started. That's very true too. I mean, it's hard to say how good Cam Selden is at this point because he's barely played, because he's barely practiced. He has been kind of injury prone. So
I feel like we saw way more of them last year than we have this season, right?
Yeah, and you know what? You're probably right. Like if I could pull up the snap count, that's probably pretty accurate. So
But we also look one reason too we haven't been seeing Cam a lot this year. Last year when we saw him is when we were getting up on teams, right? And we really haven't been doing that this season. Like all of these games have been fairly, our first couple of games, we're beating the brakes off of people and putting everybody in. But it really hadn't been that way since we got an SEC play. When we got an SEC play, everything slowed down. So I think maybe that's got something to do with it too.
Yeah, I mean that definitely has, I think, a lot to do with it. But even still, though, I feel like we could rotate him in some. I mean, if he was ready, whatever ready means, then we should be trying to rotate him in some, and don't put as much wear and tear on the other running backs. But right here from Gump says, it looks to me like Selden had vision issues. Yeah, I've heard people saying that. I don't know if it's so much of the vision for him, because if you look at our running backs, there's not a lot of plays, maybe outside of DSamp. I guess I've seen it a little bit from everybody, but it's not a lot of plays where you see them like running to green grass. You know what I'm saying? Like where they have to make a cut and things like that. But I think that that's based off of the way that our scheme is set up, that we're just trying to get, because we run so much inside zone where you just want to get downhill. Like you want to get 4 or 5 yards and just try to like keep those chains moving. So it's not a lot of room for that wiggle on most of those plays. But now that we're opening things up with more of the outside zone some stretch plays and things like that. The running backs, I feel like, could utilize their vision a little bit better, and I think that we've seen that over the past couple of weeks. But Cam Selden is a guy that we know can catch the football out of the backfield. He could be a very dangerous weapon for this team, and we've got to get him going. Like, we just absolutely have to. All right, we're going to get to a few more of these. Deborah P. says, VolQuest said, Selden and coaches had agreed to a redshirt deal. Oh, wow. Okay, so I missed out on that.
Okay.
I missed out on that. Wow, that is breaking news to me. Dang. So if that's the case, he might be transferring. I mean, and look, I'm not trying to put things out there like I know. This is just my own thoughts, my own speculation. So don't take that and run with it. But to me, that is weird. That's very weird. But I mean, maybe he just wants to stick around, Tim. What are your thoughts on that?
I have no clue. I mean, that's something I feel like you've got to be in the locker room or around the guys to get a feel for that. You know,
Yeah.
You can't get in somebody's head. And I'm not. See, the thing with this is I don't even 100% sure what the situation's been with him this season. And number one, a lot of that has to do with Heupel. He's not going to tell you nothing. You know, like he's not going to tell you anything. It's a lot of gamesmanship with that and injuries and so forth. So it's really hard to get a read on. I'm sure, like if we were AP or somebody like that, they could tell you more.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to get back on VolQuest and do a little bit of research and try to read some of those tea leaves that AP be putting out there and see if I can't try to make heads and tails of it. But hopefully it's not the case that he's going to transfer. Hopefully he just said, you know what, I'm just not ready yet, and we'll just wait. We'll just wait till next season. Jawjacking says Greenville, Tennessee has entered the chat. Go Big Orange. Appreciate that for jumping in. And Jawjacking also asks, where is Khalifa Keith? I mean, shoot, I would think that, I mean, is he going to redshirt too? You know what I'm saying? Because at this point, we've only got 3 running backs. Okay. Like we need to have at least 4 that can play. And I mean, I'm sure that if we really needed Cam Selden to go, as long as he's not banged up or whatever, if we had to put him in, then he could go. But I don't like anything about that. I don't like nothing about that. To me, makes any logical sense from a depth perspective or from any of that type of stuff. All right. So the Invisible Redneck right here says, go Vols. You know it. Thank you for joining us today. And right here, I think it was the same as Jabari Small, that shoulder issue. Also, Bishop was dinged up against Kentucky.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, actually, speaking of Bishop, he's going to be out for this game. So are we only going to go with 2 running backs? Or, I mean, I guess Keith would be 3. And then we've got some walk-on guys. Man, Tim, I don't like that. I do not like that at all.
Right.
Yeah, that does not sound good. All right, so I'm just going through, seeing if we have any more questions. It doesn't like we do. Let me see. All right, so this one right here from Dustin Young. He could be redshirting to ensure he's got a chance at running back 1. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true, but didn't he redshirt last season? Oh, no, you know what? I guess he couldn't have, because if he did, then he couldn't have redshirted this year. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's man.
Loft, did you see the one Lofton asked there above you?
Where?
Right above you says, did you play at Tennessee?
Oh no, I did not play at Tennessee. No, but thank you for bringing that. I don't know how I missed that. Let me see. Did I miss any more?
I don't think so. P went on a visit from right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So
in recruiting.
Yeah. So I mean, we've been up there several times. And P went on to Vandy. And I played at SUNY Albany. So that's AA. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing with, honestly speaking, and this is, I'll just kind of go into this just a little bit. P would have went to Tennessee if it wasn't for the staff, because he went up there. I think that might have been Dooley's first or second year or something. And I'm gonna tell y'all, man, that was the worst. That was the I'm trying to think about like how I can word this. That was the least.
It was not good.
That was a terrible coaching staff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we went to several schools and saw different staffs. That was the worst staff by far. Derek Dooley, he was standoffish. They didn't know what the hell they was talking about. So
we're talking about the same coach that didn't recruit a lineman.
I mean, I don't know how he got hired. Like, it was that bad. I mean, it was the end. I mean, look, we are all like, we grew up Tennessee fans, right? Like my father grew up a Tennessee fan.
I
His
know how he
father
got
grew up,
hired. His last name's how he got hired, man. I mean,
yeah, I mean, 100%. But I just kind of like want to put it out there because sometimes people don't understand how far this team has actually come. But every
oh,
time that somebody brings up Derek Dooley, or every time that I see him, I always think back. Butch Jones, he was bad too. But man, we've been through some really bad coaches. We've got a very good staff now. Obviously, we've come a very long way. But sometimes you just gotta kind of pinch yourself because my goodness, it is almost a miracle that we won any games with that staff. They were really bad. All right, so let me get to this one right here from Deborah P. Says they'll go to 16 teams eventually. I think that they're gonna have to. Like, it's gonna have to. How many teams get in the playoffs for the NFL? Is it 16? Can't be 16 teams. I think it's how many teams is it, Tim? Do you know?
don't know, man. It's around that number. It might be 16. I'm not sure. To be
Okay,
honest,
yeah. Well, shoot, that would
I
be
don't
half
want to
the
throw that
league.
out.
Yeah, but I think that they're just going to go straight to the NFL model. And right here, Slim, what's going on? Slim says, "Hey, Deborah P, how are you? Good to see everyone interacting in the chat." Did I get to this one from Deborah? Says the AP was one. AP was the one who said it about Selden, but didn't say anything about him transferring. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think that he would say that. And I'm not saying that Selden is going to transfer. Could just be like everyone's kind of touched on. Maybe he just wants to get the opportunity to get himself better, come back, bigger, stronger, faster, understand the system, a little bit better for next season and have a better chance to be running back number one. I could definitely see that too. So I don't mean to set off any alarms or anything like that. But right
Right.
here, I've heard nothing from anything on VolQuest about Selden leaving, just that he's only played 4 games because of a shoulder injury. Okay, thank you for that, Gumps, because I have been a little bit out of the loop over like the past week or so because y'all know, man, I had to get ready for my brother's wedding, Pete. And, man, I was ripping and running all the time trying to make sure that we could get the content out. So I could not keep up too much with VolQuest, but I'm about to get right back on that. And Deborah saying, hey to Slim. And last one right here from Gump saying that they hired him off his daddy's name. 100%.
They did. Yeah.
1,000,000%. And I think that we should never hire anybody from like a Georgia tree or anyone from an Alabama tree because that's worked out very poorly for Tennessee. So let's just not do that anymore. Lofton SR94, we need you in P. Film breakdown for sure. We are going to work on trying to get that done, and we've talked about it. Just hard to do it with our schedules. Dustin Young says, I'm curious about the feud between Mark Stoops and Hypo, supposedly involving Norman Lott. So it sounds like Norman Lott, and Tim, you might know this better than me, but it sounds like Norman Lott maybe hit Brock Vandergrift late or something, or like they felt like
he was on the sideline, and Vandergrift was coming over there. I thought he kind of got away with the one on it. I mean, he didn't like full shove him, but he did put the hands out, and it was pretty impressive. I mean, he literally didn't move, and Vandergrift went down. I was like, oh my god! But listen, maybe he should have got a penalty on it. Maybe he shouldn't. They didn't call it. They did call the one on him that he should have got one for, and he was obviously a penalty denier. Did you see the one he got for the face mask?
Yeah.
He literally came up with the helmet in his hand because his pinky was stuck in it. And he was like, I didn't do nothing, man. It wasn't me. That would crack me up, bro.
Hey, so all right, so we are all right, so these are the last ones right here. All right, so
Yeah, right.
so that right there is going to be it. So I'm going to say this real quick just about Omar Norman Lott. You need to have football players on your team like that play with that edge, that are going to get you some personal foul penalties every now and then, because that will put some fear in the offense, in the offensive line, in the quarterbacks, and the running backs. You need guys that play, I'm not going to say dirty, but kind of, play with an edge. And I'm hoping that we have somebody, once Omar Norman Lott leaves, that can play with that same sort of an edge, because that helps your defense play with an edge. But that's going to be it for this one, y'all. Thank y'all so much for sticking with us all the way through the end, joining us tonight. Y'all already know we're going to have some more content coming out tomorrow. And we should be back Saturday morning for the pregame show. Now, my nephew, Case, who comes on the show every now and then, hasn't been on here in a while because it's football season. He's got a big playoff game. They got semifinals, and P does coach his team. So all based off of how quickly that game can end and we can get back, that'll be about what time we're going to start. So we'll do our best to keep y'all posted on that. But again, thank you. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you have not already on your way out. And we will see y'all tomorrow. Thanks. Peace.